Today, Senator Rand Paul presses Dr. Rachel Levine on Capitol Hill, and progressives threaten to abandon COVID-19 relief if it doesn't include minimum wage hike. You may be wondering what one has to do with the other. Well, so are we. We've got a lot to get into, and it starts right now. Welcome to the News and Why It Matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez, reporting to you from the Arctic tundra, because whenever Glenn just leaves the set, it is in fact freezing in this building. We're going to try our best to get through this program without actually freezing to death. I'm joined by Stu Burgier of Stu Does America.
I had my heat on 90 in my car the whole way here to warm up from the radio show. I just got warm, and then we came in here.
And then you had to come and do this.
Babies.
Pat Gray of Pat Gray Unleashed.
It's cold outside, too. I mean, Texas cold this time, not like not Arctic cold.
Right.
What, 50 today?
How are you 53? Here without a jacket?
I'm tough. I'm from Montana.
Golly. All right, so we've got a lot to get into. I know you guys were thinking before you walked onto this set that you really wanted to talk about the issue of genital mutilation and right?
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally, we're going to discuss it.
That's got a 6-part documentary coming out on it.
Yeah. Really?
Next week.
I can't wait to catch that.
Ken Burns and I did it.
Senator Rand Paul today pressed Joe Biden's nominee for Assistant Secretary of Health on whether the government should override a parent's consent to allow a gender dysphoric child to begin taking hormones or pursue sex change therapy. Now, this comes because, as we know, Dr. Rachel Levine, who is from Pennsylvania, who is, of course, a transgender woman, so a biological man, is the nominee. And in the past, she's even tweeted about it. If you go to her social media, she has a tweet in which she expresses support for puberty blockers, for children, young children, being able to change their gender. And not just like, hey, I think I am a girl or a boy, but actually taking these medications in order to do so. So Rand Paul went back and forth with the doctor, did not get a straight answer from her, and but kept going in this clip. Watch.
For most of our history, we have believed that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions? For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER, but you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty, and you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, do you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone? You have permanently changed them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this. They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label. There's no long-term studies. We don't know what happens to them. We do know that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this who regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, you know, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex. I can't vote for you if you can't.
Thank you so much, Senator Paul.
So a tense moment between Senator Rand Paul and Dr. Rachel Levine.
It was lovely, by the way. She's beautiful. Have you ever seen a more beautiful woman? I don't think I have. She's incredibly beautiful.
I saw one once.
Michelle Obama, because her arms are...
Okay, the arms, but...
Yeah.
But I mean, in general,
the perfect woman would be Rachel Levine with Michelle Obama's arms.
Thank you.
I think we could agree on that.
I think we can.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's uncomfortable to watch, and it's like, all right. But, I mean, this is one of Joe Biden's nominees for a pretty important position. I get it's assistant secretary, but if we have people in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services who think that, 3-year-olds should be able to consent to sex changes, that's a big deal.
And we should acknowledge that the only reason this person has this job is because of they're transgendered, and they wanted to set this new first step on transgendered rights or whatever. There's no reason to say, in fact, we've seen terrible handling of health issues in Pennsylvania throughout the last year.
Yeah, can I just say this is the same person who enacted the same policy similar to Andrew Cuomo, removed her own mother from the nursing home so that her mother wouldn't be affected.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bad nominee no matter what they look like or no matter what they're saying in this particular hearing. When you go to this point, I mean, there's something that we do when we argue points, right? Where we take the most extreme, crazy thing to set a sort of baseline of the argument. And for years and years and years, I mean, there was always a back and forth from the left and the right about gay rights and gay marriage and transgendered rights and whatever. But you should be able to say, look, a 3-year-old, as the most extreme example he used, should not be making the decision about changing their gender, which, by the way, you can't actually do. You can have surgeries and take hormones to simulate a change of a gender, but you can't actually change your gender. But there's this idea that a 3-year-old can make a decision like this, when we all know a 3-year-old literally can't make any decision on their own. I mean, that's not what they do. They're 3. A 10-year-old is the same thing. I mean, I have a 9-year-old, and he would not be capable of making a decision like this that would alter his entire life. That's what parents are for. It's a remarkable that this, Rachel Levine will probably sail through with every Democratic vote because of her identity. The fact that he won't answer, whatever, will not answer this very simple question, come on.
Right.
Kids we're talking about. I understand we can there all this other stuff. We're talking about kids. Should they be making this decision without parental notice?
Right.
We're so far down the extreme thing, and they won't even say that. It's like when you ask a liberal, what about abortion 1 second before birth, and they won't say no.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because if this is a position that you hold to be morally superior, why not say it?
Yeah. No, it's true.
Pat?
I have kids at every age up to 38 years old. I wouldn't allow my 38-year-old to make that decision.
I don't know.
They're just not capable. They're not capable of making that. I'd be like, no, you can't make that decision.
Yeah.
Let me help you out. You're going to stay the same sex. Okay?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what, not at 38, but it's kind of what parents are designed to do. Stu, as you pointed out, there's a reason why we are the ones who are in charge of our children's lives until they are at least 18.
It's the most absurd thing maybe that I've ever heard, because we all know, as Stu just said, they're incapable of that. They're incapable when they're teenagers of making decisions like that. They really are. I mean, they're butt stupid until they're 25 years old.
And even then,
it's a little iffy. Yeah. Even then, they shouldn't vote till they're 35.
I mean, if you can't be president, you can't vote for president, right?
Right.
Man, that's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
Now, look, I mean, this goes on the back of there's a poll that came out yesterday which talked about the breakouts of how many people are gay, how many people are lesbian, how many people are bisexual, transgendered. And
did it say how many people are Two-Spirit?
It did not. They didn't even ask that, which to me was hateful.
Wow.
I thought it was hateful.
Very
hateful. Very hateful.
I'm offended.
There's no plus. There's no Q. It was just LGBT. That's it. That's it. Which I thought was really bad.
Jeez.
They lost both Qs?
Both Qs.
Oh,
both
no.
Qs.
Oh, no.
Lost them.
So anyway, the poll, I don't have it in front of me.
They had intersex, right?
No.
Surely they had, no? Oh.
No.
Wow.
They didn't have that either. They did have pansexual. They asked how many people were pansexual.
Okay.
But it was, I printed out the poll, and it was on the outside of the paper. It didn't fit. So I don't know what the result was. I assume it was 80% are pansexual, but I don't know.
It was outside of the paper?
Yeah,
You didn't reprint
printing.
it?
I printed it landscape on,
Okay.
on the portrait.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Paper by mistake, which was a problem. It's my fault. It's my fault, and I apologize.
It really is.
To all the intersex
That is
people
your
out there.
fault.
And all the pansexual folks who happen to be tuning in.
He apologizes, I'm sure.
I definitely,
right?
oh my
Am I
gosh,
right?
I apologize for everything I've ever said, Pat, and including the thing I'm about to say, which is they found that the poll found that of the Zoomer Generation Z, whatever they're calling them, Zoomers, which is just awful.
Yeah.
They found that 11.8% of them were bisexual. 11.8%. 1.8% was transgendered. I think it was like 1.6% were lesbian and like 2% were gay. So now we're up to believe right now that there are more transgendered people in this upcoming group than there are certainly bisexual, but even lesbians. Like
Wow.
they're disappearing apparently. And when you look through the age ranges, what you see is like for bisexual, it's like 11% of Generation Z, and it slowly steps down the percentages until you get to older people, and it's like 2% of older people. And it's like, well, if you're going to go by the sort of Lady Gaga thesis here that everyone's born this way, why are those percentages so different? I think there is a fair argument to say that it's become more acceptable as we've gone on through time and like more acceptable to come out of the closet. But the people we're talking about are alive. Like they're like 40 years old now in a period where they're alive and they could come out of the closet and they could certainly answer an anonymous poll accurately at this point in their lives. But like it's just like there's another part of it that is it's 11.8% of the population, Generation Z, is bisexual. When you look at that, they broke it out a little bit, and they said, well, you're bisexual. Are you having a opposite sex relationship or a same-sex relationship? Pretty interesting question. I thought they did a good job with this poll. What they found is that it was like 10 times as many people in the bisexual group were having opposite sex relationships. That's just, you're just straight, right? like I think there's this thing that you can do, and I've heard people say this before.
It's hip to be bi.
They're straight, right? They're straight, but they're trendy.
Straight with trendy. There you go. I think there is legitimately this thing that is like somewhat tied to politics and somewhat tied to being open-minded, where people will say to you, look, I don't care what they are. Whoever I fall in love with, I fall in love with. And consider that to be bisexual. They just always happen to fall in love with someone of the opposite sex. I mean, that's always just been straight. I mean, we're changing these definitions all the time. It's hard to track these numbers. But it's a fascinating thing to watch in that, like, what is causing that? It is a dramatic change. We're talking 4, 5, and 6 times as many people that are young are doing these things, I don't think it's a coincidence that they've grown up in the most accepting era of these things. Say if they're good, the bad, you can toss that around all night. But like the idea that this is just some like you wake up when you're 0 years old and you are this thing forever is, at times provably false, right? Some people decide to go different ways with it over time. So it's a tough discussion because, it's the type of thing that gets you thrown off social media. Luckily, I'm saying it on your show, so I don't care what happens.
Let's not forget, was it 5 years ago, the AMA, maybe it was 10 years ago? I don't think it was even 10 years ago. The AMA said that transgenderism was a mental disorder.
The
right?
American Music Awards?
Yes.
Why would they?
Yes. I don't know what they were doing in it.
That's a weird segment. I didn't see that.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
That's really strange. I mean, it just
like, what business is it of the American Music Association? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's weird.
It's
weird.
But now
they've
erased that.
Yes.
And it's as if that never even
and I
happened.
believe, if I remember correctly, do you remember how long it's been? Because I think it was 5 years ago.
I want to say it was 5 or less.
I think it was 5 years ago. The American Medical Association said it was a mental disorder. Now all of a sudden, you're perfectly healthy.
Now you have the mental disorder if you don't accept that to be the reality.
Yeah. I mean, we talked to Ryan Anderson from Heritage Foundation, among other places. And he wrote a book in 2018 that was called When Harry Turned Into Sally. And it was about transgenderism and just the science on it. And obviously he's a conservative, so it kind of comes off as this probably isn't a good thing. I mean, the science, look, it's widely supported over time that what people believe that are, we've talked to several doctors about this, that, the research basically shows that people who are transgendered, who have gender issues early in life, if they don't have the transition, they wind up usually being gay. And if they don't have the transition, the overwhelming majority of them are thankful they didn't have the transition. That's just, I mean, these are just numbers. Various studies have shown the same types of things. So like you're legitimately taking you're replacing the G and the L with the T. And I mean, I just feel like it's one thing if you want to do that as an adult. You can make your mind up. It's a very complicated situation. There is some truth to that, but it's not complicated when you're a kid.
Right.
Kids would make terrible decisions all the time. My children would eat Skittles all day. That's all they would eat was Skittles. That's not a healthy. It's not a healthy way to eat, and I'm not a healthy person either. And I can even know that it's all Skittles all the time. It's not a healthy way to eat. Parents need to be there to be able to guide them through especially life-changing decisions you make when you're young. It's insanity, and in a way, Rand Paul is giving her an out here by saying, like, here's the lowest hurdle to clear. Young kid doesn't tell their parents about it. Can they do it? Oh, I'll come to your office and I'll talk to you about it later. It's like, all right. I mean, I don't know how you even, how can you even have a conversation with somebody who believes that? It's so crazily over the line that I think you'd poll that question and you'd find 95% of Americans would be like, okay, wait a minute, that's too far.
Yeah. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Built Bar, which I think Pat and I can speak about. Stu is like this vegetarian thing that he has going on. And he doesn't know the deliciousness, but I bet you hear it from your wife a lot.
I will say that no one at this table has spent more on Built Bar. In fact, no one in this audience or no one in this country has spent more on Built Bar than my household. So I can say a lot about it. There's about 14,000 of them in my fridge at all times.
Yeah,
my wife has a mural of her at the location of Built Bar. That's how much our family likes Built Bar.
It's pretty awesome.
And I mean, it is amazing. She's always like, oh, I wish you could try this because I don't eat gelatin, which is in there, but like. It is one of those things where like all these flavors come out. I'm like, gosh, I really just want to take a bite.
So
it's
good.
So delicious.
I mean, I would love to tell you you're not missing out, but you're actually really missing out.
Thank you.
And you should feel really bad about it.
Wow.
They're low calorie, low sugar. They're really good for keto diets if you're on a keto diet like I am. If you have some weight to lose, or maybe you just don't like the fact that you're going to your home for COVID protocols, you're working from home and you're going to your pantry every 10 seconds and eating all of this food that you're embarrassed about later. Get Built Bar. So you can satisfy not that I'm talking about anyone at this table.
Did you say also if you had weight to lose? Why would you bring that up with us? I don't understand.
But Built Bar, it's way tastier than whatever protein bar you're eating now. And it's covered in 100% chocolate. And it's actually, it's 130 calories. A lot of them are. I think they range to like 180 depending on what you buy. Delicious, high protein. You got to get it in your pantry so that you're snacking on something healthy. You can go to BuiltBar.com, use promo code NEWS20. You'll get 20% off of your next order. They've got the chocolate cookie dough chunk right now. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss out on this. It is BuiltBar.com. Use promo code NEWS20. Back in a minute. Guys, we finally done it. We have solved discrimination. Hasbro, the company that, of course, makes Mr. Potato Head, they have decided to give the toy a makeover. It is now going to be gender neutral. And they're dropping the Mr. They're just going to go with Potato Head. The change will appear on boxes this year. Thankfully, I mean, we've got a lot of issues plaguing our society right now, but I think none as important as making sure that no toys have genders. So I want to get your thoughts on this, gentlemen, but I just really quickly, I have a couple things that I would like to say about this. Number one being, I think it's really rude of them that Brian Stelter obviously identifies as male. I don't think it's right of them to just assume that he wants to be gender neutral now. I just think that, that's kind of going against the discrimination that they're saying that they're solving. Number two, Mrs. Potato Head, I think might have something to say about this. Because as we know, there was a Mr. And there was a Mrs. Although I do think that they already were interchangeable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that that was already the solution, and I don't want to know what happens in their bedroom, but they had the ability to interchange that. Now all of a sudden, Mrs. Potato Head is left like in the wind, I guess, and also the fact that it's a potato.
Oh, jeez. Is that? Well, it's not even actually a potato. It's a toy about a potato. So technically, I mean, it's not even.
Did I get all that out right?
I do think that you did nail that one.
I think so. Yeah.
Look, it was. I mean, it's not even a real potato, which makes me very upset about it.
So your problem is that you can't. It's not edible.
You can't eat it. I've tried. You cannot eat Mr., Mrs., or just potato head. You can't do it. You'll choke. Look, I'm joking, sort of, but like. No, it's completely ridiculous, right?
Our kids are not going to be able to play with any toys anymore. That's not just like, well, is this a girl or is this a boy? Well, we can't really say.
I know, it's stupid. Look, I mean, and of course they're going to still have, I would assume, the attachments that make them look like a boy or a girl. Like, this just seems like Hasbro wants to save on printing packages. Like, they're just going to give one potato. You can make it a man or a woman, however you want, right? Like, it's pretty silly. I will say that there are other priorities, though. It's not. I mean, I know you're kind of joking by saying that, like, making sure potatoes have no genders is not really the top issue. The top issue is taking all black people off of packaging. That should be, we've got cream of wheat, we've got Aunt Jemima, we've got Uncle Ben. I want no African Americans on packaging. I think that's the top goal of our country. If not, I mean, I know the Jeep, we got to get the names off Jeep Cherokee, we got to get the Cherokee off the car.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think, though, what we should do is just name all of our products after boring white people. So you have, like, the Jeep Stew and the Chevy Pat.
Right.
And you're a little too. You've got a little bit too much flavor to be used here.
Too spicy.
You're too spicy. You're a little too spicy. Yeah. Sarah, though, will work. I mean, Sarah seems like a white name.
Does it?
Yes.
Maybe
I know.
That's why I'm white passing.
Yeah, you're white. You're a white passing POC. So maybe. But I mean, this is just—it's absolutely ridiculous.
When, though, will we get Barbara Bush off the Quaker Oats packaging? When will that happen?
Pat.
When will that happen? Will that be soon, or I mean?
Are you? I mean, I don't think that's.
Okay, so this goes along with another story right now. A proposed California bill would assess $1,000 fines to retailers who don't create a gender-neutral space in their toy sections. So in their toys and apparel sections, they have to have a gender-neutral section. I mean, they're literally talking about fining businesses for not going along with this nonsense, and I just can't freaking do it anymore. There, I caught myself. I can't do it anymore.
They already have to bleep it out. You might as well just let them fly now. I mean, this might as well just go.
I might get
fired. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. I think, like, the thing I keep falling back on, and I don't know, maybe I don't care about this nation. I don't care about what's going on here. But, like, I don't have enough energy to care about all of these things. Like, I legitimately...
But do you care that your kids are growing up in a society where they are trying to do all of these things, and your son is supposed to feel bad that he's a man? No. Also, he's white, so he's got those two things against him. Yeah. I mean, it's
I'm not disagreeing
insane.
with you. Yeah, I think what I'm saying, I'm looking at it from their perspective for a minute, though, right? Like, can you imagine if every day you woke up and looked around the toy aisle for something you might find offensive? If you looked around where pancakes and rice are sold to see what character is on the front, to see if you should be offended that day, and then to go on social media and post and write letters, and, like, you've accomplished nothing. Like, the fact that Aunt Jemima is not on that pancake box accomplishes zilch.
Well, I mean,
with the exception of the fact that African Americans can't buy their favorite pancakes anymore.
Right. I mean, it erases black people if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and it does seem like that. I mean, it does seem like that's part of it, doesn't it? I mean, it really does seem like, when Native Americans come to you and say, you know what, 90% of us are not offended by the Washington Redskins name, we think it honors us, and then you just take the name away, like, what have you done?
Yeah.
You are white-splaining, essentially, like, when African Americans or Native Americans or whoever should be offended, and that should be what people are offended about.
Yeah.
But apparently not.
Pat?
Then in California, was it California where they're going to fine stores for separating toys in boys and girls sections? You're going to fine a store if they put toys in different sections?
$1,000.
Are you I mean, the insanity is just so out of control.
Well, and where would
Monopoly money? If you could play it in toy currency, I'd be okay with it.
Where would be, like, the line? Because, I mean, if you're a retail store, you've got people shopping in and out of the aisles. What if someone has a toy and takes it to a different aisle and leaves it there?
Like you have to arrest
then you
them.
get fined.
I think you have to arrest that
But
person.
then does the store then have to pay that fine? I mean,
Yes.
how is this even policed? Who is enforcing this?
And this is all being taught in our schools and to our kids. You mentioned we were talking about Rachel Levine and the whole transgender thing. This is all being taught in the schools. Kids can go and get this stuff done on their own. And I will say this, that just to expand on all of our previous conversations over many of these years, I keep coming back to this. It's like we sit here and we have these conversations about how inane this is and how poisonous it is, so much of it, and the fact that it's being taught directly to our kids at school, and then we will go on the next break and say, open up the schools. And it's like, well, maybe we should keep the schools closed, and we should send the kids to private school or any other place, maybe under a bridge, to be taught by homeless vagrants instead of these people, because what they're doing to our kids is really traumatic.
Okay. Yes,
But
however,
I understand.
as long as you're taking my tax money, open up the damn schools.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, look, they should be open. It's a separate argument, but I think that.
Yes, I agree.
Conservatives, I think, are missing a great opportunity here with these schools being closed and with people being so frustrated about them being closed to say, hey, there are better options, because not only are you pissed off that your school's not open and your kids are with you because they have to stay home and have nowhere to go, but in addition to that, when they go to the school, they're going to teach them poison.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we really need to make I think a bigger issue about trying to figure out ways, even for people who can't afford it, to be able to take their kids out of these schools and learn from sane people occasionally.
Yes, yeah, homeschool your children. I did. I'm like really, really busy, and I still find time. You got to find the right curriculum. I can promise you it is out there. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Bambi. If you are a small business owner, entrepreneur, you probably know this already, but HR issues can just like totally decimate your entire business. You've got wrongful termination suits that you could be liable for. You've got minimum wage requirements to remember, which, by the way, we are going to get into after the break, minimum wage, and labor regulations that you can't remember that. That's not where your expertise is, and HR manager salaries are like $70,000 a year, and that's a lot of money. So Bambi, B-A-M-B-E-E, was created specifically for you, the small business owner. You will get a dedicated HR manager who can maintain your compliance, they can build your HR policy, they can do it all for $99 a month. This is a steal that you are going to get from Bambi. You're going to get a dedicated HR manager who is available like by phone, email, real-time chat, however you want to contact them. They will handle your onboarding, they will handle your terminations, they will customize all of your policies to fit your business, and they will manage the day-to-day. They will do it all. $99 a month, all right? It's month to month, no hidden fees. You can cancel anytime if you don't like it, but you will, because they will help you. Let Bambi help get your free HR audit today. You can go to Bambi.com/matters right now to schedule that free HR audit. I'm telling you guys, it is worth it. BAMBEE.com/matters. Back in a minute. Progressive legislators like our good friend of the program, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, threatened to bolt on the COVID-19 relief bill if it does not include a hike in the minimum wage. AOC said that they're going to abandon it if they do not pass through with reconciliation the $15 minimum wage attached. And she's taking a stand against it. She said it's a small technicality, but I do think we've got every tool in our toolbox here, whether it is reconciliation, whether it is ultimately reforming the filibuster. We're going to need to deliver on our promise to raise the wage for 27 million Americans. It's good. I mean, it's good that the Democrats aren't playing political games with, Americans' paychecks.
Yeah, no.
So that's good.
Definitely not. I mean, look, she of course does really want this, but she will also fall in line if she is needed for a bill that's going to spend $1.9 trillion on other various wish list items for Democrats.
Yeah.
The $15 minimum wage, I don't even think, honestly, it can be done this way. I don't think it makes sense. I mean, we haven't had
do rules matter now?
Well, I don't know. There's the Senate parliamentarian who's going to give this ruling. I don't think it's come down yet, has it? If it came down today, I missed it. But they're going to say, hey, yes, you can put a minimum wage bill through reconciliation. I don't think that is within the rules. Now, you're right. They could change the rules, and they could say, well, you know what? Now you can. They just have to get the votes to do that. They'd need Manchin and Sinema. But again, when needed, all of these guys will come around. All of them will come around when needed. Now, I think there's a chance that like something where, Joe Manchin might say, I'm only going to do $12.50 an hour. Like you'll get.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that.
Who was it? Romney and someone else want to do $10 an hour.
Yep, they want to do 10. I think was it $7.25 now? So they want to raise it up to 10. I mean, look, there's overwhelming support in the population for these bills to raise the minimum wage. It's not a close. It's among the least popular thing us three believe. If you want to say about like to $8 and $9, I mean, you're talking in the 80s and 90% type of approval over these things. It's like a conservative, libertarian economic point that we are 100% right on, but no one agrees with.
Yeah.
They're going to get that through. They can get that through during another bill. $15 though is really stretching it. I don't think they'll get it that high.
Okay, so because I heard a report, what was it, yesterday or the day before, that we talked about on the program that Joe Biden had even said the minimum wage deal is dead. So you think he just meant if it's $15?
I think the $15 thing is such a stretch, and I think they know it's a stretch.
Yeah.
I think it's the type of thing they know they'll lose. I don't think they can do it the way they're trying to do it. So, because the 50 votes thing is very specific with the types of rules. They can, again, change the rules. They can go after and get rid of the filibuster. There are things that they can do, but they're extreme. And I would not put it past Democrats to put them through in this fashion, but it's a pretty big step. Now, if they jam in a $12 minimum wage into a bill that they want to get passed later on that's very popular, like, a military support bill, right? Like that's the type of way I think they could get something like that done. I don't think rule-wise they can get it done this way. And I think you probably will get Sinema and Manchin saying, look, we said we don't support $15 an hour. That's why we're only supporting $14.85. That's the type of thing, or it'll be phased in over a longer period. They'll play their games. But I think, when it comes down to it, the Democrats will get their 50 votes for this thing. And Joe Biden knows it. Everybody knows it. So why would they bend? Why would they bend to Romney's $10 plan or a $12 plan? They don't need to. I just don't think they can do it this way.
Yeah, Pat.
I'm going the other direction. If 15 is good, why isn't $50 an hour better?
Great point.
It is.
Why not $100
Let's make
an
everyone
hour?
really rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not $1 million an hour? Let's just make everybody millionaires every hour.
That's true.
Great, right?
As he said, like, I
would like
we
that.
want to support 27
I would
million
too.
people.
Right.
This would support all 330 million
This
people.
supports everybody.
Yeah.
Really, really
Even
well.
kids. Why don't kids
Even
get
kids.
it?
Right. They
Why
should.
don't we just give it to them?
They
Why-
should,
wait,
so
why
that they
per
can
hour?
then afford their sex change operation.
Yes.
Right?
Which they should get for free.
Yes.
I saw Chris Hayes tweet out something along the lines of like, well, there is absolutely no compelling substantive argument against raising the minimum wage.
Well, it's
and
just
it's like
asinine.
Right. It's like
What
just
are you,
because you don't
insane?
agree with it doesn't mean that there's no substantive
Right.
argument.
Of course there's a substantive argument against it. It's going to hurt small businesses dramatically.
Yeah.
And
Not to mention it's going to hurt the minorities and the poorest of the people that they claim that they want to help.
Big time.
Because they're going to get forced out of a job.
And look, if the minimum wage is just that, it's a minimum wage for when you're just getting into the workforce. That's what it's designed for. It's not designed to support a family of 12. I mean, nobody says, you know what, I'm going to retire on that $12 an hour. I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to make, well, when I'm retiring, though, I'll probably only make $10 an hour, but I'm going to retire on this. That's not what it's for.
Yeah.
It's for teenagers who have no skills, who are working at McDonald's, get into the workforce, and you make a minimum wage just to get you, into the workforce and understand how it all flows and how it works. Gets a few dollars in your pocket so you can put gas in your car and go cruise the drag or whatever these wacky kids do these days.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. They cruise the drag, right?
Drag.
And so, it's been completely flipped around.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to support a family of 6 or 10.
Well,
now.
because they get to use the term livable wage and make it
No,
mean
it's
whatever
not
the hell they want it
It's
to
not
mean.
supposed to be a livable wage.
Right. Well, but I'm like, what does livable wage even mean? Can someone please define it for me? What is livable wage? Because something that someone can live on
Yeah.
in New York is a lot different than something someone
Big
can live
time.
on even in Texas.
You're going to need like $50 an hour in New York.
Right.
Because 15 is not a
You
livable
could, but like,
wage.
it's like, okay, is this living with a roommate? Is this living without having children before you're ready? Is this living without a really nice car? and taking the bus. I mean, there are a lot of things in here, nuances in here that we're not even discussing because you think you have a right to just say, I just need a livable wage, so you have to pay me whatever the hell I want.
Right. It's one of those dumb things they make up that can mean anything, right? I mean, we all know 100% of people making minimum wage are living. So they've somehow made it livable. They may not like that life. I mean, it's supposed to chip in. It's a way you earn money early on, get experience, build your career. As Thomas Sowell, I believe it was, said, the actual minimum wage is zero. When the minimum wage gets raised to $15, those people get $0 per hour, and they stay at home and they're on Twitch all day, right? Like, so what do you do with that? I mean, like, if you want a society that is dependent on government for their entire lives, a group of young people who grow up with no ability to learn a trade, to actually have a work ethic and build that work ethic, then you're a Democrat and you want this to go on, right? We know it will cost millions of jobs. It may help some people in certain circumstances, but the amount of people who are trying, we've gone through these numbers before, the amount of people who are on minimum wage, who are trying to support a family to make it a livable wage, it's such a small amount, you basically round it to zero. It's almost no one. Almost no one is in this situation. Most of the people are either very young or, maybe in retirement, just trying to do something. It's a very small percentage of people who are in prime earning age, who are working to support a household on minimum wage. You're right, Pat, not designed for that. Look, I would be of the opinion to get rid of the minimum wage entirely. That's it's just not a sensible thing. It doesn't help people. It hurts. But again, there's only so much pushing you can do on this. We can win this argument in our think tank worlds, in our talk show worlds, but when you have a policy that's 85, 88% approval, they're just going to do it. I mean, they're going to find a way to do this. I don't know if it'll get to 15, but they're going to find a way to raise it.
All right. We've got the latest on Andrew Cuomo coming up next. Back in a minute.
Now, is he a Republican?
Andrew Cuomo is surprisingly, shockingly, I know, sit down for this one, denying allegations this week that he has used his position to belittle and bully critics and opponents, sexually harass an aide, and suggest she play strip poker. Now, of course, we brought you this story yesterday, the allegations from Lindsey Boylan, who is a former Cuomo aide who, I think it was last December, she came out and she said, he sexually harassed me. He's a slimy, sleazeball, but didn't really go into the details. Now she has. And I, for one, am shocked that he is denying it, and also shocked to hear that multiple women on the left, including Kirsten Gillibrand, who was very outspoken of women's rights and, blasted Al Franken himself, all of a sudden have nothing to say, not responding to comments, asking them how they feel.
No believe all women coming from Gillibrand on this one?
I'm shocked. I don't know. Maybe she didn't get the call.
Another Democratic luminary that spoke out very much this way and advocated for individual, immediate and independent investigations was someone you might know, Andrew Cuomo. He also was saying
there's another guy who has that name?
No, it's the same person. He was just saying when it was someone else, it was all we need independent investigations immediately. Now it's just he's supposed to deny it. His denial was amazing too. I don't know if you happen to see it, but I don't have the exact phrasing in front of me. But basically, he did one thing. He did was take something she didn't say in her piece. Like she described the strip poker situation and said, like, one person was sitting in front of me, one person was behind me, and she names who they are. And he responds in his his big denial to get him out of this. We have the flight manifest, and at no point was she on a flight with just those two people. It's like, well, at no point did she say she was on a flight with just those two people. And then it says, and you can attribute this statement to any one of these four people. And they list four people, and then it just says, we never heard that conversation take place. It's like, well, did they say that, or who? Why are you attributing it to four people? Did they say it in unison? Was it a song? Did they sing it all together? Or was there, are you just writing words and jamming it into these people's mouths because they're subservient to you, right, like you wanted Lindsey Boylan to be? And that's why, of course, Andrew Cuomo is awful.
Oh my God, that's what the mug says.
That's exactly what it says, Sarah.
Wow.
And it is despicable. And I will say this as well. We have not heard word one from his brother, Chris Cuomo, or anyone on CNN.
Well, that's
about
because
this.
there's a ban on Chris having Andrew on on the show with him. So
he wanted to.
He'd love to have him on, I think, right now.
Yeah.
And
there
he
was
just
a
can't.
ban,
really wanted
and then
to.
they cleared
And then
the
they
ban
cleared
up,
it,
and then they put it back on
reinstituted
when it got
it.
difficult.
Well,
Right.
he really needed to do the, interview with the giant cotton swab.
Oh, that was
right.
That would have been really
he
funny.
needed that. Well,
Right,
it was hard-hitting journalism.
I've always found that comedy is much funnier when thousands of people are dying in nursing homes.
Do
It's
you?
just
Right.
it's just a rule of comedy.
Right.
So yeah, no commentary from Cuomo, which is of course Andrew Cuomo is awful.com, and that's why of course also Chris Cuomo is worse.com.
Okay.
.com. So you can get either of these there.
I love those.
But they are both true statements.
Very.
And you might say, well, wait, I don't know, maybe Chris Cuomo isn't worse. He
It's
hasn't
hard.
killed thousands of people
Yeah,
in nursing
it's
homes.
hard.
But he's worse than almost anything. So it works in even if you don't think he's worse than Andrew Cuomo, if you just hold it up, it really...
It stands
it's
on
worse
its own. It
than
really does.
Almost everything.
These are like good his and hers cups.
Yeah.
Or his and his.
Glenn made me make one that says Don Lemon is worserer.
That's great.
That's up there now, too. But I wouldn't have that one in
That's
stock.
amazing. But it is hard to pick, though, Pat, which
Well,
one
I
is
want to
worse.
know if we've gotten so picky now where a governor of one of the most populous states in this country can't ask a few employees to play strip poker on a flight.
Just a
Is that
question.
where we are now?
Are
Is that
questions
where we
illegal?
are? No, I don't think so. Have we gotten this picky now where that is a bad thing?
Yeah, and we should point out it wasn't just that. It was also touching the leg,
Yeah, he
touching
kissed
the
her
back,
on the
kissing her
lips
on the lips.
without permission.
Now, I did say what I read yesterday. There was one that I gave him a pass on, which was sending flowers on Valentine's Day to like multiple female aid workers or
Yeah.
whatever. I was like, okay,
Yeah, that
if it
doesn't
was
seem terrible.
just that, you could
That-
say
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that was just nice.
And her
Yeah.
case on that was all of his direct underlings that were women got flowers. And one person outside of the direct underlings, which was her, got flowers on another floor, the only woman on the floor who got them.
No, I mean, if the card said like, "Hey, baby, do you want to like go to bed later?"
The emails said that. The emails didn't they say he listed one of his former girlfriends and said that she looked like his former girlfriend, except
Only
her
prettier.
prettier sister. And he told, again, through multiple layers of management, this is not Cuomo saying it directly to her. He's saying it to Lindsey Boylan's supervisor, who then's communicating, hey, you look like my hot girlfriend's hotter sister, and also, that I have a crush on you. So again, like, none of this was, we should be clear, number one, even though Andrew Cuomo is among the worst people on the planet, he is still innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And number two, none of this was Harvey Weinstein level stuff. I mean, it was bad and really creepy. But it was not. And as much as I legitimately can't stand Andrew Cuomo, I legitimately think he's responsible for thousands of people being dead. That being said, he still deserves all the protections that everybody else
I'm
has.
sure that pains you to say.
Due
hate it.
process.
I still believe in due process. I will be consistent even with the worst human beings on earth. I will still say that that's true.
And, by the way, Andrew Cuomo is awful.com. Back in a minute.
Available now.
Hey, don't forget to go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It helps more people find the news and why it matters. You also might see your review read live on air. We've got one from Gambit120 who says, best news podcast. This is the best news podcast out there. And there's 2 exclamation points in his sentence.
Wow,
so
he means
you know
it.
that he means it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. Also, Jamie Mars, don't have a chance to always catch the show Don't always have a chance to catch the show on Pluto, so I download the podcast just for good measure. I love all the guests. Too tough to single out just one. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure that you get your reviews in so that, again, I mean, there's a lot of, like, you have to feel for the people who are listening to Brian Stelter. Okay, we want to make sure that they're actually getting the real news. And also, he's probably hurting from Hasbro taking away his gender. So also, don't forget, if you want to join Blaze TV, become a subscriber. It is, you got to join now, all right? The sale is about to end. You'll get $30 off if you use promo code NEWS. You got to go to blazetv.com/subscribe. BlazeTV.com/newsny, promo code NEWS for $30 off.